Welcome to Lunch with the Lord. I'm Pastor Mark. We are in 1 Samuel chapter 7. We're going to be starting in verse 9 this lesson. But before we begin, Jeremiah 15 verse 16, Thy words were found, and I did eat them, and thy word was unto me the joy and the rejoicing of my heart. Now, up until verse 9, we see the children of Israel. They're turning their hearts back to God. They're learning the law. Samuel is judging them, and they've put away their gods. The Philistines, they don't like the idea that the Israelites are gathering at Mizpah, and they want to know what's going on. So, because they want to keep control over the territory that they are over. So they come up against the Israelites. The children of Israel, they become afraid, and give them credit. They don't just go back to their God, their idols, and but they continue on, and they want Samuel to pray for them that possibly they could be free from this oppression, 40 years of oppression under the Philistine hand. Now we come into verse 9, and verse 9 says, And Samuel took a sucking lamb and offered it for a burnt offering, holy unto the Lord. And Samuel cried unto the Lord for Israel, and the Lord heard him. Now Samuel will now be functioning as a priest and also as an intercessor. According to Leviticus chapter 22 and verse 27, the lamb that Samuel offered was at least 8 days old, but probably not much older than 8 days old. The lamb, you could not, God said in his law, you could not offer a lamb that was 7 days old or younger. It had to be at least 8 days old. When it says that the Lord heard Samuel's prayer, God's answer to Samuel's prayer is seen in the next verse, verse 10. So let's read verse 10. And as Samuel was offering up the burnt offering, the Philistines, they drew near to battle against Israel. But the Lord thundered with a great thunder on that day upon the Philistines, and discomfited them, and they were smitten before Israel. Now, this is the second step of the children of Israel's return back to God. The first step is seen in verses 6 and 7, where they confess their sins. At the first step, the enemy approaches. Now, the second step is seen here in verses 9 and 10, where an offering of complete dedication to God is seen. And at this second step, the enemy attacks. So, at the confession of sin, the enemy approaches. But it's when they dedicate themselves to God that the enemy attacks. And it's the same way with people who give their hearts to Christ. When we confess our sins, the enemy presents himself. But it's when a person dedicates their life to live unto God, that's when the enemy attacks. Satan's kingdom is right there at both steps to oppose any commitment to God that a person would make. Satan does not want people to be saved. And when a person does get saved, it means war for the rest of their life. Before salvation, a person was kept under the lies and the deceit of Satan's kingdom. They served his kingdom, but upon salvation, that person now becomes Satan's enemy. The Israelites, they are turning towards God. And the Philistines, they don't like it. Now, for the last 20 years since their defeat in 1 Samuel chapter 4, the Israelites went back home to their idols, and things stayed the same for a while. But God was doing a new work now among his people. And now, 20 years later, the Israelites, through Samuel's ministry, they are turning back to God, this great God that destroyed the Egyptians. And the Philistines want to try to stop it. Now, the Philistines, they want control of their land. They don't want the people gathering together and having, thinking that they're gonna break free from their oppression, from their rule. No. So here the Philistines come up to oppose. The Lord answers Samuel's cry by bringing a great thunder and confusion upon the Philistines. God's part in this battle helped the Israelites to defeat the Philistines and finally break free from 40 years of oppression from the Philistines. Now let's read verse 11. And the men of Israel went out of Mizpah, and they pursued the Philistines, and they smote them until they came under Bethkar. Now, Bethkar here, this name Bethkar means house of a lamb, or house of pasture, or house of field. This is the only time where this place is mentioned, and it is not known exactly where Bethkar was. The weapons that the Israelites used were probably things that they brought with them. And as I said last lesson, they probably brought farming utensils, whatever, things that they used for farming. Why? Because mainly they had, the Philistines would not allow the Israelites, or really any nation that they were in control over, to have weapons or make weapons. So the only thing that the Israelites would come to this battle with are things that they use on the farm or around the kitchen or whatever. But mainly they may have been weapons that they got from the Philistines, that the Philistines either threw away in fear when it thundered, or from dead Philistines. So when God thundered the thunder, the Philistines ran, and any weapons that the Philistines laid behind, or when the Philistines died, the children of Israel could pick up their weapons and use those. Now, let's read verse 12. We're going to finish this lesson in verse 12. And it says, Then Samuel took a stone, and he set it between Mizpah and Shen, and called the name of it Ebenezer, saying, Hitherto has the Lord helped us. Now, the name Shen, the name Shen means the tooth. Its exact location is not known, but it seems to have been a rock formation that looks similar to a tooth. Now, the name Ebenezer means rock or stone of help, either rock of help or stone of help. Samuel sets up a memorial stone as a reminder of the help that God gave in this victory over the Philistines. Now, up to this time in history, in Israel's history, memorials have been set up as a reminder and as a means of teaching the next generation the great things that God has done for their people. In Genesis chapter 28, verses 20 to 22, and also in chapter 35 and verse 14, Jacob, he sets up a memorial at Bethel. In Joshua chapter 4 and verse 9, Joshua sets up 12 stones in the midst of the Jordan River and 12 more stones at Gilgal, where the Jordan River was parted. In Joshua chapter 7, verses 24 to 26, in the valley of Achor, a great heap of stones was set up to remind people of Achan's sin. In Joshua chapter 8 and verse 29, another heap of stones was set up to mark the burial place of the king of Ai. In Joshua 10, verses 25 to 27, another heap of stones was set up at one of the caves of Makkedah, where the 5 southern kings were defeated. And finally, in Joshua chapter 24, verses 26 to 28, Joshua set up a stone of witness to remind the children of Israel of their vow to serve only God. So throughout Israel's history, there have been many monuments. We would call them monuments, or many stones set up as reminders to the children of Israel of the great things that God has done, and also of warnings. The one of Achor, the valley of Achor, where Achan sinned. And so here, they're setting up a reminder. This is what Samuel is doing. He's setting up a stone at Ebenezer to remind them of this great victory that God had given the children of Israel over the Philistines. You know, as a Christian, we all have memorials. The church, or the place where we got saved. You remember that place? You remember the place where you got saved? The place where we were baptized. A home where you used to attend Bible study. Do you remember many years ago, if you've been saved a long time, do you remember many years ago where you used to go to a Bible study? Yeah. A church where you went to for your first Christian concert. Or the place that you went for your first Christian camp. Maybe you were a teenager and you went to Christian camp. You remember that place? Yeah. You know, these places remind us of the early days of our walk with God. The simplicity of our faith that we had in God. I know I've been saved now for about 48 years, and I can take you to the places. I can show you the home where we had Bible studies. I can show you different homes we had Bible studies because we rotated, and also where we had camps, and the church that I got saved in, and these are memorials that we can keep in our heart to remind us of the great things God did for us when we got saved. You know, maybe you're newly saved. Maybe you've only been saved for a year, 6 months, maybe 2 months, maybe 2 years. Have set up things in your hearts as memorial. Always remember the place where you were when you gave your heart to Christ, or the place where you got baptized, or where you went to Bible studies. These are memorials that are set up in our hearts. Everything was new and fresh, and we were excited about the things of God when we first got saved, right? Don't ever forget your memorials. Remembering your memorials every so often will be an encouragement to continue on in this life. They will remind you of faithful people who have moved on to a different call or who have passed on to their eternal home. Yes. Most of I dare say almost probably all of the people that were in those Bible studies when I first got saved, they're all gone home now. They're all going to heaven. There might be one or two left. I'm not sure. I tried finding them on Facebook and I couldn't find them. But anyways, God calls people. But remember your memorials. You know, most of all, these memorials, they will remind you of God's faithfulness to you when you were just a beginner in the faith, and how God sent people to you to help bring you up in the right ways of the Lord. Keep your memorials close to your heart. That's what's happening here. These memorials have been set up in Israel, and they were supposed to be there for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years throughout Israel's existence. Are they there now? Probably not. Why? Because the children of Israel, they turned their hearts to idols, and God allowed enemy nations to come in and take them over. And more than likely, the enemy nations would knock down. They wouldn't know what these pillars of rocks were. They wouldn't know what they represent, and they knocked them down. And they're probably all gone by now. But this is what happens when we turn our hearts away from God. Sometimes we lose our memorials. We lose them. But keep them close to your heart. And remember them every so often, and they'll help you keep up with the faithfulness of God, and you'll be thanking God for what He's done in your early life, even until now. All right, we're going to continue on here in verse 13 next lesson. But until then, walk with the Lord. I know He walks with you.